Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Access Success Training. A couple of things to start with. One, you are all muted, as you probably know. And what we will do is there's a question section in the GoToMeeting menu on the side. Put your questions in there, and then if I will review them. And at the end, Greg Davis, the presenter, will be going over the questions with you. So Greg is our sales, engineer, support, training, anything and everything. He's probably one of the best people out there. And so we have the privilege of having him lead us in the training today. Greg, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Vic. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for attending this Access training today, brought to you by Keystroke. So we want to inspire and support our clients' ongoing success through, quality software solutions like ACT and training sessions just like this one. So I want to thank everyone for attending this. I think we do this every month on Thursdays, one Thursday a month. So I just want to start by saying we do have a lot of participants in this room. So everyone is on mute to avoid any crosstalk and ambient noise and things like that. So like Vic said, you can use the chat panel to go ahead and type in any questions along the way. And we will get to those questions by the end of this webinar. This will be about an hour. So we'll probably leave about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at the end, so we can go over any of those questions that came up in the chat panel there for you. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Just by introduction, I just want to let you know who I am. I'm Greg Davis. I'm here on the Keystroke ACT support team. I do a lot of the trainings here. I've been working with ACT and been on the ACT team since 2005. I worked many of those years over at the manufacturer, who many of you may remember was Sage, and then turned into SwiftPage. So spent a lot of time working over there, and came over here to Keystroke in 2017, and really a lot happier here. Just, I like helping customers get more juice out of their contacts. So also real quick, I know most of you know who Keystroke is. That's kind of how you got into these free training sessions we do. So again, they're just, they're the exclusive distributor in Canada and the exclusive distributor of French version of ACT in North America. Keystroke currently is the number one reseller of ACT in the world right now. So we do a lot of stuff. We have a lot of services and sales and things like that. So we'll get into a little bit of that stuff when we get into some of the stuff I'm going to go over. So the agenda today, we're going to go mainly over a lot of administrator functions, back-end things that a database administrator may perform. Now, if you're a single user in ACT, let's say you just bought ACT for yourself and you're not sharing the database with multiple users, you already are the administrator. So this will probably apply to people like yourself as well. So we're going to talk about database maintenance and cleanup and how to kind of keep your database in good working order. We'll talk a little bit about backup and restoring databases. I'm going to bring open the ACT scheduler to kind of explain what that is and what it does. A lot of people don't know about that. I'll talk about how to manage users and change passwords and things like that. And then we'll get into a little bit of customizing the interface, changing the way ACT looks to fit your business and kind of get the stuff on the screen that's most appropriate for yourself or you want to see. So that's what we'll be covering today. So let's go ahead and get out of this PowerPoint and get right into the product and start talking about these things. So, all right, so this is the ACT interface right here. I have ACT installed on this computer. I'm using ACT Premium. There's a couple different versions of ACT, but everything I'm going to be talking about today is applicable for really any version of ACT you might be using. So I wanted to start out in this welcome screen. So a lot of you may already know how to use ACT and use a lot of its functions. So, but this left navigation bar over here, this is really where this is where you go to navigate to different areas. So I wanted to start out in this welcome screen right here. This is always a good place to get additional help. So I wanted everyone to know about this welcome screen. On the screen, you've got links to watch videos, training videos built right in. Clicking on this will get you to a page where you'll be able to kind of see a bunch of different features that have training videos on it. And you can watch a 2 or 3 minute training video and kind of pick and choose which feature you want to learn more about. So it can be very handy. Also, the knowledge base is here. We'll get into that a little bit later and show you about that. That's got thousands and thousands of documents going decades back on how to do things in ACT, step-by-step instructions, things like that. The ACT community is here as well. This ACT community, this is a place where other ACT users post questions. It's kind of like a forum, basically. So ACT users will post questions, and other ACT users will chime in and give answers. And the manufacturer even chimes in on at that forum as well and gives answers too. So those three things, the community, the training videos, and knowledge base, these are great places to get additional help with ACT if you run into any additional problems. So just kind of wanted to show you that welcome screen first, just to tell you that this is not your only resource. There's resources inside of ACT itself that can help you get through issues and things, walkthroughs and stuff like that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the agenda a little bit. I think I'm going to switch it up a little bit as far as the order that I showed you, just to kind of make more sense. So, all right, I've clicked on contacts just to get into a contact screen in ACT. This database is a demo database. It's got about 252 contacts, so it's not real data. Just so you know, things kind of might look out of place or like in the past. So just keep that in mind when I'm going through all this stuff. So first thing I want to talk about is managing users and how to edit user information and things like that. And this will be applicable really to anyone. Single user databases, multiple user databases, people who are all sharing a common database together. There always is at least one administrator user in the ACT database. That administrator has access to all of the functions in ACT. There are other levels of security. And actually, let me show you something. I'm going to go back to this welcome page, and I'm going to click on the knowledge base right here. What this is going to do is open a web page and go to the manufacturer's knowledge base. This is a searchable knowledge base with tons of information. So I'm going to type in security roles, and you can go here too. You can go to help.act.com, which you can see up here at the top, which will also take you into the ACT knowledge base. So you don't necessarily have to get into ACT to get here. You can just pull up a web browser and go to help.act.com, and that'll take you here. So, and you can pull up this document as well to take a look at it. So I'm just going to type in security roles right here and hit enter because I want to let you kind of see this. So this first result, the security roles in ACT, this kind of lists out the different security roles that you can set up for every user right here. There are 6 different security levels from administrator all the way down to system manager. And then each one of these will kind of describe to you what each one of these security levels mean. So when you're creating or setting up users in ACT, and I'll get into that in a second, you'll be able to see this and it'll ask you what security level do you want to set the user to be. So you may want to review this document when you're setting up new users so you can kind of decide who's going to get what ability. Now, single user databases, let's say you're just a single user, you use it on your own, you are the administrator already. So, the ACT database has to have at least one administrator. So, if you're a single user, you were made the administrator, and that's good. So let's get back into ACT, and I want to show you where to go to manage users and change passwords and security levels and things like that. So up here along the top of the screen in ACT, obviously you've got your menu section, drop-down menus, and basically everything you want to do in ACT can be accessed from these menus up here along the top. But when we're talking about administration stuff and managing users, that's going to be found under the Tools menu right here. And then you'll see this option called Manage Users. Now, if you're not a database administrator, if you don't have an administrator security role, you will not be able to access this. So that's good for people that, obviously have multiple users. They don't want everyone to have administrator access and be able to go change passwords on people and things like that. So only someone with an administrator security level would be able to access this menu item. So I'm going to go ahead and click Manage Users right here. And this will bring open the Manage Users window, as you can see. And so from here, this is where you can perform a lot of functions on your users who access and share this database. So we can see I've got all these other users here who also have access to this database, so we can all share and collaborate and get into the database together and do what we need to. That's really why ACT was designed, is to have a working database that multiple people can get in and share the same database together. So this list right here, again, it's going to list your usernames that they log in with. That's what the username is. So this is the name that the people will log in with right here under username. Contact name is just the person's name. Usually they will match, most cases. And then under security role, you can see which security roles each of these users have. So I have a couple of different administrators in this database, which is fine too. A lot of people want more than one administrator in case someone is off or something like that. So now to edit any of these users, it's as simple as just double-clicking on their name. Now, creating new users is something that's really varies depending on what you have and what you purchased and things like that. ACT is licensed per named user. So we can see all the named users I have here, which means, and it also shows you your license count. So this shows me I have a pretty large license count. I really have the ability to add 180 active users into this database. So, but if you buy a one-user license, you're only going to be able to put one active user in here to be able to log into the database. And you can see their logon status here is active. So where it says active, these people have the ability of logging into this database. So let's say for instance, Allison has forgotten her ACT password and she can't get into ACT because she's forgotten her password. That's a very common thing that happens. My suggestion is write down your password. I would say 85% of our ACT customers don't even know what their ACT password is. So write it down, keep it handy. Administrators should do that as well, just so they have it on hand. But if for some reason you've forgotten your password, an administrator would log into the database and they would have access to this manage users window. Then they can go to whoever, Allison's record, Allison's line, for instance, and you can either click edit user information on the left here, or you can double click Allison's name. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to double click here, and this will bring open the next window, which now allows me to start editing this user information. And again, these are the users that, your colleagues that log into ACT and use the database along with you. So here's the security role. If I wanted to change Allison to an administrator, I could simply do that here, or make her some other level if I need to do that. And again, you probably want to review that article I showed you for security roles to find out which user is going to have which access and allow them to do what. So Allison has forgotten her password. So we're just going to simply change it right here. Again, I've logged in now as an administrator, so I have access to this feature. And now I'm going to change your password. And that's as simple as just changing these two fields. You do not have to hit reset password. Honestly, I don't know what that button's there for. I've been doing this a long time, never used it, never had to. But anyway, let's change her password to password. So I typed in password right there, and I'm also going to type it in right here. And that's it. Now you have some other options. Maybe you want her to change the password when she logs in. So if you check mark this, now I can go tell Allison, go ahead and log in. Your password is password. And when you get into the database, it's going to make you go create a new password for yourself. At the same time, I'm going to tell Allison, that new password you create, please write it down somewhere. And you can make it so it never expires. You can make them not change it ever, things like that. But that would be it. As far as changing a password, that's all I need to do. And then I can click this finish button. And that's it. This window pops up just to remind you, you may have to update some other add-ons or some other features to be able to use ACT with Allison's new password. So that you'll always see this warning. If you're using some add-on, you may need to change the password in that add-on for ACT as well. Oh, great. That's ACT Scheduler. That's an error that happens every once in a while. Hopefully I can work through this, but let me get out of here. Wasn't expecting that to happen. All right, so that's finished. I just changed Allison's password and it took me back to this main screen. And now I can just close this, Go tell Allison to log in with password and change her password when it asks her to. So that's one way of changing someone's password and security role and other things. So I do want to show you a couple other things in here that gives you special permissions to allow people to do things as well. So again, let's go back into Allison's record. I'm going to double click on this. If I click next now, it takes us to another one of these options that you'll see here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to click next. This will allow me to deactivate Allison. Let's say she left the company and I want to free up her license to add a new user. Because again, ACT is licensed per user, so you got to free up licenses or buy more licenses. So in this case, I want to free up a license to let someone else log in. So to do that, I would simply click inactive, make Allison inactive, and then move on and go to the next thing. Then you would be able to go create a new user for your new employee, and they would be able to log into the database as well. So that's really just to make them inactive or active according to how many licenses you have and how many people you want logging into this database. I'm going to click next to go to specify access. Actually, it takes me to, that was specify access. So this takes me to the add permissions page. So there are a lot of other permissions that you can add to people as well. So for instance, export to Excel. This is an option that you can give to people or take away from people. If you do not want your users to export to Excel, you can come in here and uncheck this and push this over to the left and other things like that. So if you don't want them deleting records, you can also move that information over to the left. These are already kind of grayed out because the security role already gives them the ability to do these things. So this is kind of tied into a security role as well, you know, the administrator and the restricted security levels, things like that. So, but this does allow you to take certain access away and things like that. A lot of times we call in and someone will say, hey, I can't export to Excel. How come? And it's usually because their user access has export to Excel over here on the left side. So you can just simply click export to Excel, push that over to the right-hand side, and then that user will now have the ability to export data to Excel. All right, so let's go ahead and finish and get out of this. That's a lot of the people. That's most of the things that people use manage users for, is to create new users, change passwords, change security roles, and things like that. All right, so let's get out of this and move on to some database maintenance and cleanup and things like that. So a lot of people don't realize that ACT databases can get full pretty quickly and can get clogged up sometimes. A lot of people have a lot of users that are just constantly putting data into the system all day long, every day. And ACT can, after a while, it can start slowing down and it can start having problems after a while. It takes a long time for that to happen, but it's a good practice to keep your database clean, maintain your database. And to do that, there's a couple of different ways. I want to show you a couple of different ways of doing this. So under the Tools menu again, you can see this option for database maintenance. And then there's a lot of options here to check and repair, to remove old data, to delete the database, which you probably would never want to do, to share the database out amongst multiple users. I want to show you the check and repair. This is something that people just don't do often enough, and some people never do it. 20 years go by, they're still using ACT, and now their ACT is in bad shape because they never do this. So it's really recommended to run a check and repair. I would recommend every week or every month, and it really depends on how often you use ACT, how much data is going into it, a lot of different things. But so I'm going to go ahead and click check and repair. Now you have two options that come up on the screen for the integrity check and the reindex. These are two different things that I recommend running weekly or monthly, you know, whatever you decide depending on how much data you use and how often you use this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm a little concerned about how long this is going to take. You know what? Let me do the reindex instead. So I'm going to uncheck integrity check because that takes longer. This goes through your database, checks database for errors, and then it'll tell you if it found any errors, and it'll tell you, that it's going to repair them if it did find any errors. So again, this is a great thing to do on a pretty regular basis to keep your database in check. But I'm just going to do a reindex, which usually is a pretty quick process. So you'll see this performing database check and repair pop up. Even though I unchecked check and repair, it's still going to say check and repair. So it's doing some security. It's repairing some ACT metadata. It's going to repair some sync objects and some metadata objects and things like that. So that's what it's going through here. Usually this just takes less than a minute. But again, it depends on how large your database is. Some people have, I've seen databases that are 50 gigs, which is really big. And I've seen other databases that are just a few megabytes. So everyone uses ACT a little bit differently. Everyone has their own process. And so doing this, again, depends on that and how often you use it. So I'm a little concerned now that this is going to take longer than I expected. So I want to give this another line or two to go by. And if it doesn't finish, we'll go ahead and cancel it and move on. I don't think I do this often enough in my database. This is just kind of a demo database that I use from time to time, so I don't really maintain it that often. But as a database that's in production in your building, you probably should do this quite often. And it's recommended if you have this on a server, go ahead and do this check and repair on your server, which then will translate down to anyone who may have ACT on their workstations who are accessing that database on your server. So as you can see, check and repair finished successfully. So that's good. That keeps my database in order. It re-indexed everything, which will speed things up a little bit for me. So if you're experiencing slowness or just some funkiness in ACT, do that. Do a check and repair. Do a re-index. That will definitely help. Okay, I want to talk about backup and restore a little bit. So under the File menu, you've got these two options to back up database and restore your database. Let's first talk about backing up. So obviously this is something that, again, really depends on how often you use ACT, how often you want it to back up. And backups obviously are good for data loss. If for some reason, you back up your database. Let's say you back this up and you put that back up onto a memory stick or something. Now you've got your database right there forever. So if your computer gets stolen or your computer crashes, you still have your ACT database on that memory stick. So it's a good practice to back up your database to a memory stick or to an external drive or to some other drive on your network to keep it backed up. And it's, it's a good process to back this up often because you never know when your computer's going to crash or when something bad may happen to ACT. And in those cases, you'll have an ACT backup that you can always just restore. So doing a backup is pretty simple. Just simply go to the File menu, click Backup, click Backup, and then click Database. You don't really have to worry about personal files ever. This question comes up a lot. It's really never applicable. So I'm just going to choose Database. This is going to back up everything. First thing it's going to ask me is, where do I want to store this backup? So this is my default place that I have my backup stored. You could certainly click Browse and store them wherever you want, on a memory stick, on an external drive, on wherever. This will create a zip file with your entire database. So I'm just going to kind of edit the end of my backup name to today's date, just so it doesn't overwrite anything else that may be here with that same name. And that's it. And I want to include my attachments because I do attach stuff into this. I don't care about password protecting the file. So I'm going to click OK. And that now will begin this backup, and it'll put that backup in the location that I told it to. And it just creates one file. It creates a zip file that kind of compresses everything and puts it all into one place. And that's already done. So now that backup file is available for me. If my computer crashes or if I accidentally deleted 500 contacts. When you delete contacts out of ACT, they're gone. You can't get them back unless you restore a backup. So that's one good reason why you should continually restore backups. We have customers all the time that come to us and said, I accidentally deleted 500 contacts or 1,000 or whatever. And when you're deleting a contact, it actually warns you, hey, you sure you want to do this? And when you click OK, it brings up another message. Are you really sure you want to do this? So it warns you twice, but people do it anyway. So it's a good reason to back up. So now that backup file is available in that location, and I can go and restore it whenever I want. I'm not going to get too deep into restoring databases, but because I don't really want to mess with this database I already have here. But it's a simple kind of a reverse process. You click on File, you click on Restore, you go over to Database, and then you get some other options, and see it's going to take me out of this database thinking that I'm going to go restore some other database.
So,
and then you have several.
Greg, quick question. When you're doing a restore, does it backup, does it save your layouts as well?
It does. Good question. And it actually saves everything. Saves all the layouts that you've created. It saves templates, all of the templates. Yeah, it saves all the templates that maybe you're creating for mail merges. It saves all the usernames. It saves all of the data inside the ACT database. So yeah, the answer is it saves everything, every single thing in the ACT database. So doing a restore is just like this. You go in and you click Restore. This first option is if you're restoring the same database from an older date. This would be used if you're bringing a database. Let's say you want to put that back up onto a different computer. That's when you would use the Restore As feature. This bottom one is really just for remote databases, people that sync. So ACT can be used in a lot of different ways. A lot of people access the database directly through their network in real time, making the changes right on their server in real time. Other people have remote databases that, allows them to disconnect from the network, walk away, go travel, and have the actual database with them that they can sync back to the server over the internet or over a network connection. So you probably won't be using this too much, but this is used to unpack remote databases that are created for people who want a database that they can take away from the office and then sync their changes back to the main server. So you probably won't be using this too much. And keep in mind, all the stuff I'm talking about, Keystroke provides services for all of this stuff. So we don't expect you to remember all this or know how to do all this. It's something that we can do for you. So just keep that in mind.
So if a person's hosted with Keystroke, do they have to do any of this?
They don't have to. We can certainly do all this for them. That's a good question. People that are hosted with Keystroke, that just means that we store their database here on our servers here at Keystroke. And we're kind of acting as almost like their IT. We manage the database. We back it up. We do the check and repair on the main database. And then those users will have what's called a remote database, because obviously they don't have a direct connection to get into our server. They've got to have a remote database that they can make changes to, which will sync up to our server. So that's what that is. And yeah, you're right, Vic. We do provide a lot of hosting services and things like that. So yeah, it's not necessary you know all this stuff, because again, Keystroke can provide a lot of these services for you. People that don't have, customers that maybe don't have a tech support plan and maybe single users of ACT, this is good information to know anyway. So keep this in your back pocket, obviously. And you can always use that knowledge base to find out how to do all this stuff too. All the stuff I'm showing you can be found in the knowledge base with step-by-step instructions on how to do all this. Good question. So let me back out of this. I knew that was going to take me out of that database. So I'm going to go back into the database we were just at. I'm going to go to File and click on number 1 here, which is the last database that I accessed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and get back in here. I don't have a password for my database because I will forget it also. So I've just chosen not to have one. You can do that too. You can go under Manage Users as an administrator, double click on someone's name, and blank out their password. Just make them not have one. That's a definite way to make sure they're not going to forget it. Okay. I'm back in the database. I have my database set to automatically open into the welcome screen. You do have the ability of changing that too. So, and this is not a global setting. This is a setting for each user. If you go under Tools And then you've got this preferences option right here. This is a lot of good stuff in here. Some can be accessed by users, regular non-admin users, and then some of these features do require an administrator login to get them. But I wanted to show you just what I talked about a moment ago. When I launch ACT, it takes me right into this welcome screen. Under this Preferences, under Tools and Preferences, you can click on the Startup tab and choose which screen you want to start up in. This can be pretty helpful as well. If you want to launch into your calendar every day, you can do this. And actually, in my production database, when I open ACT, it takes me directly into my task list, which is my calendar too, because that's the first view that I want to see. So when I open ACT, I don't see the welcome screen. It takes me to my calendar immediately, and I can see what I'm supposed to be doing today. So each user does have the ability to go in and edit which screen they want to start up in. That could be pretty helpful, pretty handy. So I just wanted to mention that to you. That's why mine starts up in the welcome screen. Usually I do demos in this database, and I want people to see this because it's so handy and helpful. All right, so I want to talk about the ACT scheduler now. I did have an error with it, so hopefully it's not going to cause more of a problem here. I think it's probably going to. Yeah, I've got a problem. This is a quick fix. So if you don't mind, I'm going to have to fix this. Let me kind of explain what the ACT scheduler is. So what I did there is I went under Tools, and then I clicked on ACT Scheduler. And what this is, and I'm doing a search somewhere else for some information on fixing that root element problem, which just will take a moment. But the ACT Scheduler is a service that you can set up which will make ACT automatically back up, and which will make ACT automatically run that check and repair. And you can make ACT automatically synchronize remote databases back to a main server somewhere. So the ACT scheduler, is a great tool to use to be able to do all of those things. I want to get into the ACT scheduler to show you how that all works, but since I'm having this error, I do have to fix it. This will probably just take me a couple minutes, and I apologize for this, but it's one of the big things I did want to show you. So just bear with me while I get this solved. It'll just take me a moment here. And maybe some of you others who are getting that problem will kind of see how I'm fixing it. Windows updates can usually cause a lot of havoc in ACT. This is kind of one of the things that it can break every once in a while. All right. I have ACT for Web installed, which allows me to access the database over the web. So what I need is in a little bit of a different location. So again, I apologize for this. I'm trying to get through this as quickly as possible. There it is. Okay. All right, that should solve it. So I'm going to go ahead and get back into ACT now, and we'll attempt to run the scheduler again. Apologize for that. A lot of people complain about load times with ACT. Sometimes ACT can seem like it's taking a really long time to load. There are things you can do about that. Usually it's because you may have a lot of add-ins also for ACT. There's a lot of third-party add-ins that will make ACT do a lot of things it won't do out of the box, like this, like mail merge for ACT. So if you do have add-ons, you will see slower load times because it has to load those add-ons. I'm just basically canceling out of those so we don't have to kind of deal with them.
A quick question before you do that is,
sure.
What type of errors does it check for? It doesn't check for duplicates, does it?
Are you talking about when you run like a check and repair?
Yes, yeah, check and repair.
That's true. That's a good question. No, it does not check for duplicates when you're doing that. All it's doing is kind of going through the back end and getting everything reorganized, and checking for any bad data, any data that may look funny to the ACT database itself, and telling you how to solve those things. But no, it does not check for duplicate contacts. But that's a good question, because there is a tool inside of ACT to check for duplicates. So that's something else that administrators may do from time to time to check for duplicates. That is not something I do very often. It's right here. So it's under scan for duplicates. I'm not sure why mine is grayed out. It's probably because I'm on the welcome screen, as I am logged in as an administrator. But checking for duplicates is a good thing to do every once in a while as well. People sharing multiple databases sometimes will talk to the same person without realizing it, and they'll create a record that may be exactly the same. So you do have this option right here to scan for duplicates under the Tools menu. In my opinion, scanning for duplicates through ACT is a little bit clunky. It works well, but if there's lots of duplicates, it really takes a lot of time to go through them and get everything organized. So there are some better tools to scan for duplicates. Some third-party add-ons for scanning for duplicates that, in my opinion, work a lot better. But in most cases, you can certainly try a scan for duplicates and see what it finds. If it only finds a few, this would be a great tool to do that for. But if it finds hundreds and hundreds of them, you may want to think about scanning a different way with some third-party add-on or something like that. Good question. All right, I do want to show you the scheduler, so let's cross our fingers here. So again, Tools and ACT Scheduler. This should work now. There we go. All right, so this is the ACT Scheduler window that pops up when you open this. As you can see on the right-hand side, there are no tasks created, which means that the scheduler is not automated right now. Nothing's going to happen. It's not going to make anything happen. So to start using this, you want to create a task over here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to click Create a Task. And then the first thing you have to do is connect it to the database that you want to run these automated features on. My database name, as you can see on the top left, is ACT V20 Demos. So that's what I want to connect this ACT scheduler to do backups automatically and to do those check and repairs automatically. So I'm going to click the Browse button. I'm going to go to the location where this database is, right here, and I'm going to select it and click Open. And then I'm going to log in with my username and my password, being an administrator of this database. I don't have a password, so I'm going to click Next. The next screen will be presented with a task that you want to set up in here. So dropping this down will let you know what you can do. So I can automate backups. I can automate that check and repair with maintenance. That's my two options here. People with remote databases, there'll be another option here to automatically schedule synchronization of those remote databases back up to a main server somewhere. So let's choose backup. No, you know what? I want to run maintenance. So I'm going to choose a task to schedule automatic maintenance on this database. So I've chosen that, and I'm going to click Next. And I would suggest doing this on a server. If you're sharing data with multiple people and you have the main database on the server, this is where you would set that up. All right. So I would keep both of these check marked for the integrity check with checks and repairs and reindex. So I want both of these to run on an automated schedule. So I'm going to click Next. And this is the schedule to set the schedule on how often you want this to happen. So I want this to happen every week. I want my database to be maintained and to be automatically checked and repaired and re-indexed every week. And that's my suggestion. Do it every week. But again, depends on how often you use it. If you only use ACT once a month, you don't need to really do it every week. So I'm going to choose what day I want this to happen. So I'm going to say Friday. We will start it today at, let's say, 6 p.m. Next. This is really, you can set this up to send notifications to an email address of a success or a failure of the scheduled task. I'm not going to do that. You can certainly set that up if you want to. And then click Finish. Okay, now you can see that there is a task here to schedule maintenance. And when I highlight it, it tells you when it's going to happen. Once a week on Friday at 6 p.m., this database will automatically do that check and repair, re-index, and keep my database clean, so I don't have to think about it. Now, at this point, you want to start the service. So there's this button right here on the left that says Start Service. I'm going to click this, and I'll explain what happens now. So now it says the ACT scheduler is running. Now I can click OK, and I can exit. What that means is this is now a service running in the background on this computer. And we can see that down here by the clock, down on the taskbar. If I click this little caret, here's the ACT scheduler running right here. It's this little gold round circle, and it tells me when I hover over it, ACT scheduler is running. So just by looking at this, I know those tasks will work. My database will be maintained every week, 6 o'clock on Friday. It's going to run that check and repair and keep my database in good working order. From here, I can actually open the scheduler now. Now that I have it running and it's in the background running, and even when I close ACT, the scheduler will still be running. So it can still do that maintenance, even if the ACT database and product is closed. Those things can still happen in the background. But I can reopen the scheduler from here simply by right-clicking and choose Open ACT Scheduler. Now maybe I want to schedule another task for backups. The same kind of process happens. I click Browse to choose which database that I want to schedule these things on. I'm going to use this demo database. I'm going to log in with my admin credentials. And select a task. In this case, I want to choose database backup. All right, and then the location where you want your backups to go. You can browse to an external drive or this default location, whatever you want. This will be the default name, and this will get changed every time a new backup happens. And let me explain that to you. I do want to include attachments. So this next screen, this allows you to choose how many backup files you want to keep. So right now I have it selected to choose 5. So what will happen is, depending on how often I'm backing up, it's going to create 5 backups. And then when it gets to the 6th time, it's going to overwrite the oldest backup. And then it'll keep doing that every day. So you'll always have 5 backups. You can obviously up this to as many as you want, but just keep in mind that these backups can become pretty large. So, if you want to save 30 backup files every single day for 30 days, that could really fill up your hard drive pretty quickly. So just keep that in mind. I want to choose 5, and I want to back up every day, and we'll say at 6:30. I keep my computer on, so I'm not worried about this. If your computer is off at this time, obviously it will not work. Why can't I type in 30 for some reason? Gosh, there we go. Okay, so your computer has to be on, obviously, for these things to happen. So I want it to happen every day, 6:30 p.m. I want this database to be backed up. And again, I can set an email address to send me notifications saying that something failed or it worked. And that's it. Now I've got two tasks running in here for backup and maintenance. I can exit out of this. That scheduler is running in the background, and I know that those things will kick off on the times that I've set them to do so. So really cool product, really cool feature to be able to automate backups, scheduling, and things like that. All right, the last thing I want to get into before we get into some questions is going to be customizing the interface. So I could actually probably spend a good hour, 2 hours on this alone. So I'm kind of going to breeze through it a little bit, but I think you'll probably understand. Now, again, this feature will allow you to completely change around this whole interface. You can see how I have mine set up. Your screen probably looks a little bit different. I put my logo up here for keystroke. I've put some special fields in here that I want. And that's what the interface design allows you to do, is create more fields. You know, maybe you want some custom fields that are specific to your industry. You can do that, and you can place them on the screen anywhere you want. You can also, you know, add additional tabs down here that may hold additional information about the contact you're looking at. So, you know, the main ACT screen, this contact screen, this is really the main screen that people live in, this contact screen. And it's broken down to two halves. The top half has all your basic fields, and the bottom half has tabs. So everything you need to know about the customer is going to be found right here somewhere, in the top half of your screen in some fields, or in the bottom half screen in some tabs. And again, this can all be completely adjusted and rearranged to fit your business, your industry, and get the things on the screen that you want to see that are most important to you. This is unlike any other kind of CRM out there where you may have to scroll around to get to see what you need. With ACT, we try to keep everything in one place, all on one screen for you. So customizing this can be a little tricky, a little dicey. This is something that Keystroke provides services for. So if you don't want to touch this, if you don't want to get into this and do this, let us know. We can certainly do it for you and get it the way you want. We've done some pretty extensive customizations and really made this, you know, that's what's great about ACT is any industry can use this product because of its ability to customize and create your own custom industry specific fields and views. So customizing the interface would be done by an administrator, and you would access it under Tools, and then Design Layouts right here. And then you can choose which screen you want to design, the contact screen, which we're looking at here, or your group screen, or your companies or opportunities. All these can be edited. So I'm going to just go ahead and choose Contact. This will get us into the Layout Designer. And this is where some people think it starts getting scary and kind of starts looking funny, which it does. I mean, it can be kind of scary getting in here. But from here, you have the ability of now moving whatever you want. If I want to put my logo on this side of the screen, I can just drag and drop it over here. I can add a new logo here if I want to. I can move any of these fields or get rid of any of these fields. If I want my contact screen to be right at, or contact field to be right at the top, I can simply just select them and move them up. And same thing with all this stuff. So I can really rearrange this however I want. Maybe I don't want these latest activity fields on the screen at all. I can simply select them all like that and delete with the delete button, and they're gone. So one big thing about this, if you're going to go in and do this, number one, go back up your database first. Because if you make some mistake in here that's unrecoverable, that's bad, and you're going to want to have a backup. So back up your database before you do anything like this, just so you can go restore it if you accidentally make a problem in here. And also what I tell people is when they get into this, if they think they've done something wrong, if something looks funny, or if they're like, I don't know what just happened, get out of it and don't save it. So I'm going to actually click X, and I'm going to choose no, do not save any modifications. That'll save you later, because now I didn't make any changes. So again, if you get in there and think that something weird happened, get out of it and start over. It'll save you tons of time to try to figure out what happened. But let me jump back into this. So again, Tools, Design Layouts, and Contact. which brings up that layout designer and again allows you to move stuff wherever you want and add new fields or tabs, I should say. So here are my tabs along the bottom that holds a lot of other information. I can move these from down here up to the top if I want. You know, under my personal information, I've actually got a photo field. If I wanted the photo field to be on the main screen, I can simply drag it and drop it up here. And now that photo field is going to be up on the top half. So moving stuff around is just drag and drop interface. Adding new fields into the database can be done from here as well. Let's say I wanted to add a field into this database. Maybe I've got a social security number field that I want to put right here. I can easily click field over here on the left-hand side and then go over here with the mouse and just place it somewhere. So I'm just going to click the button one time. That'll actually place a field and it automatically brings open the select a field window. So now I can go through and find the field that I want to put there. Social security number, for instance. There it is. And I'm going to click add. Now I have the social security number field here. I can adjust it. I can move it around wherever I want it to. I can even change the fonts. I can make this field larger or smaller with these kind of, what do they call them, anchors. Maybe drag it out to make it really long, make it really short. You also have the ability of changing fonts over here on the top. Fonts and colors and everything. So I can change the background to a different color if I want to make it more readable. I can change the font and color on this label if I wanted to, make it larger, do whatever I want to. So this can all be rearranged however you want to fit your business, to fit your industry, and get the things on the screen that you want there to make your life easier. That's what's great about ACT. Not a lot of the systems let you do it this easily. But again, remember that Keystroke provides these services. We're experts at this. We can get it exactly the way that you want it. Some people have problems going in here and playing around with this. So
with that, Greg, I have somebody, Pam, asked about she has some trouble with her web-based version. Where do people go for help for Keystroke?
Yeah, good question. So the web-based version of ACT is, in my opinion, harder to work with in this layout designer.
No, not just in layout designer, just in general. Sorry.
Oh, where to get help?
Yeah.
Okay. A couple different ways. I mean, you can certainly go right to the Keystroke website and give us a ring. Also, and let me get out of this. Make sure I'm not going to save anything I want to. All right. So, getting help, you can go to keystroke.ca, the website, or you can give them a call and get a rep to help you with whatever kind of issues you're having, or this email address, if you can see it. I don't know how large that is. Let me see if I can make the font.
We can see it.
Good. So this is the email for tech support at Keystroke. So you can always send in an email to that place, that email address. That'll go to our service department, and they will assign one of our tech support reps to assist you with whatever problems you're having. Now, if you email in there, I do suggest it's probably best that you send in information about what problem you're having. Screenshots certainly help, and that will kind of speed things up and get help a lot quicker. So those are the couple of different ways that you can go about getting support. Go to keystroke.ca and give us a call, or shoot off an email to service@kqc.ca. Is that what you're looking for? Is that the answer?
Yes. Yeah, that's the correct answer. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. Good.
Can we go to some questions, or did you have something?
Yeah. That was kind of everything I wanted to cover for today. So yeah, let's get into some questions, and I'll answer what I can here in the next.
All right. Another question from Pam is, why do I get the backup notice so much?
Why do you get the backup notice so much? Oh, I'm not sure what that means. Are you telling me that you get a message that pops up saying ACT is backing up?
I don't know, or ask her to back up. I'm not sure. So maybe, Pam, if you can email service@kqc.ca with that one, that would be great. I think we can help you there.
Yeah, hard to determine what you're talking about there, but go on, Vic.
Yeah, and next question is, how do you import contacts from a spreadsheet into ACT?
Good question. Yeah, and this can be tricky as well. But importing, first thing you want to do is back up. First thing you want to do is back up your database in case your import goes awry. You want to back up first. From that point, you go to File up here, and then you've got the import option right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. I'm going to kind of skim through this because this I could spend an hour just on this alone. Also, so this will take you into the import wizard. I'm going to click Next. This asks you what you want to import. You have the import of importing CSV files, which would be text separated by tabs or commas. Excel is the best way. If you can get your data into an Excel spreadsheet with, I think the extension is XLS or something, that's the best way to import. So if you have an Excel spreadsheet, you choose Excel. And then you browse to where that Excel spreadsheet is. I don't think I have one to show you exactly, so I won't be able to go through this entire thing. But basically, this is it. This goes through the wizard, allows you to choose what on your spreadsheet you want to get imported, and it's best that your spreadsheet really has the right fields on it. So again, importing there's lots of steps to it, so I can't really show you the entire import process in this demonstration, but the welcome screen will. If you go to the welcome screen in your ACT and go to the knowledge base, that will pull up this, and from this knowledge base, you have the ability of just simply typing in how to import Excel or CSV, and this will locate a document, and there it is, very first one.
Excellent. Thank you.
And this will walk you through it step by step on exactly how to do that. So hopefully that helps.
All right. Next question. If a user goes away, what should be done so we know who made what edits or added something later, even though that user is no longer working for the company?
Good question. So each user, as you know, has their own login. I'm logged in here as Greg Davis. You can see that down here at the bottom right of the screen. So anything that I do now in this database will be reflected under Greg Davis. Okay, so for instance, histories. I'm clicking on the history tab. These are all the histories on my account, things that have happened on my account. And you can see over here, record manager. This tells you who did it, who was logged into the database, who did this. So, it really depends on exactly what you want to see. But, there is a history list here. And maybe we're getting some clarifications in the question, but this history list is a pretty cool place to go to get an entire list of histories in ACT based on your filters along the top here. And again, you can see over here on the right-hand side, the record manager. This was the person logged into the database who made these changes, or in this case, these histories. So here's a field that was changed on 10/15/2009. Greg Davis made that change on that field, things like that. So that's one way to check what someone has been doing in the database. But you may also want to run reports. Reports are available to just about every user. I think there's 2 security levels that do not allow you to run reports. But you could always run reports against a user to see what activities they've performed. These reports can really pull anything out of ACT that was put in there, and it will allow you to see who the record manager was or who made those changes. Hopefully that answers your question. Maybe you can clarify it with a second question. But what other types of questions do we have?
All right. How does the remove old data tool work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I meant to show you that. I'm glad you brought that up. So this is a great feature to use every once in a while. I don't use it as much as I should. So under lookup, I believe it's under lookup. No, it's not. I've got to remember where this is. I can't really remember. Yeah, okay. Yeah, database maintenance, I should have known. Remove old data. So this is a good tool to also help clean up data. Now you can't automate this part, but it's probably a good idea not to automate it because this does remove data from the database permanently. So again, back up before you do this. But this will help clean up data as well. So, this pops up and allows you what you want to remove. Notes older than how many days, history is older than how many days, cleared activities older than how many days, and document tab entries older than how many days. It's that simple. And again, this will remove it from the database, which will again keep it in clean, good working order. So that's how you use that. Just be careful and back up first.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, is V22 compatible with SQL Server Express 2017 and 2019?
Whew. I got to look that up. I believe
maybe on that one, John, if you could email service@kqc.ca, I think that would be good for that one.
It's so fresh. I haven't memorized all the system requirements yet. It seems to me like SQL 2019 supported, but I can't say for sure. You can definitely find that though in the knowledge base. If you go into the knowledge base and look up system requirements for V22, you'll see that there, and it'll tell you what version of SQL it can use.
Right, thank you. And another question, should I upgrade to V22 now that update 2 is available? And they're asking about HHC. So our recommendation right now is to wait for the third update, which should be out beginning of January. Is that right, Greg?
That's what I understand as well, and that's my suggestion too. Yeah, we've found some issues with it that are being corrected by the manufacturer as we speak.
Excellent. Okay. What are the third-party tools available for dealing with lots of duplicates?
Ooh, there is a tool that's called Duplicate Contact Wizard or Remover or something like that. It's made by Pat Egan. That's probably the best one that I recommend. So if you go to Google and search for what is it called, Vic? Do you know, Duplicate Contact Wizard?
I think so. No. If you go to the marketplace, Act Marketplace, just search for that, and then so actmarketplace.com. And then if you go there and search for Duplicate Checker, you will find Pat's product there as well.
Yeah, really great product. Does a really good job of getting rid of duplicate contacts and merging them and stuff like that. That's probably my best suggestion, is to use that tool.
All right. Next question is, does ACT have to be off when something is scheduled?
Yes. Well, no. Well, ACT can be shut down, but the scheduler here has to be running. So if I shut down ACT right now, this scheduler still will be running, and the tasks that I created in there still will kick off. So ACT can be closed, but your computer has to be on.
Excellent, thank you. There's a Mark Fisher. If you could send your question to service@kqc.ca, that'd be appreciated. Is there a way to export field data to another field? Example, a template created with home address can you change them?
Yep.
All?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. I actually, this was something that was on the agenda that I removed for time. But yes, you can do that. So to do that, if you want to move data from one field to another, it's a very simple process. The first thing you want to do is create a lookup of the contacts that you want to transfer data. So let me do this. I want to transfer data from this ID status field. So I want to look up everyone in this field who is a consultant. So I right-clicked in that field. I'm going to type in consultant. I clicked on look up ID status. I typed in consultant, and I'm going to hit enter. This will give me a list of everyone in my database who has consultant on that ID status field. It found 16 people. So I actually want to add that column to this lookup. So I'm clicking on options on the right, customize columns, and I want to add that ID status field here, just so I can see the data on the screen. So I'm just going to add the ID status field over to the right-hand side. So now I should be able to see that field here. Okay, so there's all my consultants. Let's say I want to make all these people not consultants anymore, and I want to change it to something else. So there's different ways, different options for this. Under the edit menu, up here on the top left, you've got replace field, swap field, and copy field. So these are the three things that you'll use to do what you just described. If I want to replace the ID status field with something else, for all of these records, I click replace field and it brings up this little window. I want to replace contents of the ID status field, and I want to make it say, this is a drop down field, so I've got a lot of values in here. So I want to just say they're going to be a reseller now. That's it. Now I click OK, and we can actually watch it happen. And it's warning me it's going to modify everyone in this lookup. And that's why it's good to do a lookup first and back up first, because if you do this wrong, you can always restore your backup. So I'm going to click yes. And now we can watch these all change to reseller. And that's doing it en masse. So that's how you would replace data. You can also copy data and swap data from fields using that same function under the edit menu and in swap or copy. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that was it. And another question, is this webinar recorded? Yes, they are recorded, and they are available on our keystroke.ca website under video. So if you go to the training on the right-hand side, you can find them there. So appreciate that question.
Other types of questions?
Let's just go. Stephen, you had one about importing contacts from Excel, have them automatically import. Maybe you can.
Yeah, you can't. ACT itself will not automate imports. You have to do that manually. There are some tools out there that can automate it, but they're third-party tools made by other companies. I don't know off the top of my head one that will automate imports, but importing is a manual process.
All right, there are a few other questions, but we have run about 7 minutes over. So Roger, Richard, you have a couple more questions there, as well as Pamela. Please send those in to service@KQC and we can answer them there. So thanks again for attending the webinar. We're getting lots of good feedback. And again, check our website in about a day or two. If you want to watch this video again, it will be up there under keystroke.ca. So thank you very much, Greg, for the time. And that's the end of the webinar. Have a good day, everybody.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.